Welcome to Gifted Underachievers, the podcast for mid-level creatives with delusional ambitions. In this segment, James admits that as a young man, his life was a chaotic workflow. Pat reveals that she carried a briefcase in 4th grade to organize her life, file folders, and a special pen to boot. Nevertheless, the Gifted Underachievers found organization in a modicum of coolness despite early indications. From there, Pat and James do a deep dive on what it means to have a chaotic creative workflow and how to go from chaotrope to kosmotrope. Hey, Pat.
Yes, James.
Well, I'm down here in the Gifted Underachievers filing atrium. Doing a little filing, getting things organized, trying to perfect the way that we, have things sorted out around here. And it got me to thinking about chaotic workflows.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Which there was a time in my life that everything I did could be described as a chaotic workflow.
Yeah. Really?
Definitely school, college, chaotic workflow. But it was when I started doing this professionally that the chaos side of me had to relent and give in to the organizational side of me that I didn't know existed.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
But I'm curious because of all the people I know, I view you as a highly organized, non-chaotic workflow.
Thank you so much. Well, actually, it's funny because I've seen your workflow. So I've worked with you. You've been my client basically, or you've
Mhm.
connected me with a client. I've worked on books that you've written. I've worked with you on GU, and you were the one who established our system in Dropbox for keeping track of stuff.
Mhm.
You're the one who's been very actually on top of idea generation and all these things. I don't feel like, from my perspective, your workflow is chaotic.
Mm.
So just wanted to throw that in there. I do have sort of a chaotic workflow, definitely about my own creative work. I mean, so I block time. I meet on Wednesdays at 5 with a writer who's also in the Pacific time zone. And last Wednesday, my God, what was 2 days ago? I was coming in from a really busy day. I usually work well past 5, at my day job. So I was I was happy to stop doing that stuff and do my own stuff, but I had no where to start with my own stuff. So in the course of about an hour and 10 minutes, I tried to read 3 different books, one of them a craft book and two of them sort of
Mhm.
inspo types of things. I wrote a couple of scene cards out. I wrote a few hundred words on 750words.com, which is just something I use
Uh,
to track words. And I had like a canned gin cocktail from the fridge. Um, I was doing
they
anything to
make
sort of
that?
get, huh?
There are canned
Yeah.
gin cocktails.
When my brother was here from New Zealand with his wife and family, they bought some at the local liquor store and then they didn't drink them, so they dropped them at my place and I hadn't drank them. They were in the top shelf of my fridge for at least a couple months now. Anyway,
Wow.
the point is
Sure.
I was gonna land on a place of calm, not something non-chaotic, and all I really did was ruffle the surface of my writing project. I just like
Mhm.
it's like a cat getting into a piece of tissue paper. It's like there's nothing being made right now. I'm just like, getting comfy, sort of.
Yeah.
It's just so stupid. So anyway, I would say yes, I have some very strong workflows in terms of how I manage my time for my creative adjacent work, which is,
Mhm.
teaching, teaching writing, teaching editing, and editing. And so that part, the only time it gets chaotic is when the volume outstrips my own ability to produce. And I do work long hours and I'm pretty good at
Mhm.
focusing, but sometimes the volume is just really, really high. And then I am a bottleneck because I can only work so many hours in a day. I crap out after, 14 hours, sometimes 16 hours. I just can't do it any longer. So,
Yeah.
but on the norm is for me is my workflows are not chaotic at all in most things, but I found it quite chaotic in my writing.
Mm.
with this
In
most recent
your own
project.
personal writing. So
Mhm.
here's a question I have. Would you describe yourself as being a student growing up, those kind of, as somebody who is generally well organized,
Yeah.
or yeah. So
Yeah.
you can come into it with a sort of a sensibility already.
Oh, for sure. I had a briefcase in fourth grade. You know
Really,
how
with
kids have
initials on it?
backpacks? I actually had a briefcase.
Did you have your initials? The little
No, it was
brass.
one of my dad's old briefcases, and it was a zip top, and I would put it down next to my desk in social studies class. And fifth grade, what are you, 10 at that age?
Yeah.
I remember just the feeling of intense, almost like my chest was going to open up with joy because I could bend over and riffle my fingertips through I actually had file folders in my briefcase. I didn't, and I would pull out the file folder with whatever subject I was working on and put it on my desk and get my special pen out, and I was in hog heaven. That's the kind of weirdo I was.
Wow. Now I have to ask, did you have a sibling that was the complete opposite of that? And did they drive you absolutely nuts?
No, we didn't get involved in each other's workflows in elementary school. Like,
Uh,
my brother was a bit, my oldest brother, he was a bit of a behavior problem, to be honest. My sister and I were very close. We went to the same elementary school, but we were never in the same class because we were a year apart. And my little brother tends to be a bit like me, I would suggest. I mean, he was reading Gibbon's the nine volume The Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire when he was like 11, and he was enacting battles on a plywood sheet on two sawhorses. Uh, he was equally weird.
yeah, that's a good way to, yeah, I was more of a chaotic person for sure. Chaotic meaning disorganized.
Mm,
My brother was the complete opposite, highly organized, liked everything to be just so.
mm,
And he did great in school too. So, no wonder.
yeah.
Um, but it wasn't until I started this writing thing that I really found the bug for being organized.
And because you were forced into it, because you were spending more time looking for shit than working, or what was the catalyst?
Yeah. You can't be um a person with chaotic workflows and well, that's too far. There's definitely people who have chaotic workflows who do perfectly fine.
Yeah.
But I think that it's not a feature. I think it's a bug.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of times where I think we can perceive something as a feature that's actually in fact a bug.
Mm,
And so it took me time to realize that my more chaos oriented, disorganized oriented way was a bug and not a feature, and I needed to fix it.
right. Yeah.
And really it was very quick. And it started when I was a journalist.
Oh,
Because you had to be ready. Every single day you had to produce stories. You had to be able to
yeah.
present and pitch to your editor. People, you always have 5 to 10 stories working. And so you could get phone calls related to any of them. So you have to be very present immediately.
Hmm.
And, 5 days of trying to navigate that without a system, uh,
Oh, fuck yeah.
you just can't do it.
Yeah,
So
that makes sense.
but it's interesting what you bring up, that there is this separation between, the paid work, the writing adjacent, and the actual writing work.
The creative
And
stuff.
I know what you mean. It's easy to say, okay, I'm now going to focus on my creative writing, and then, immediately start to battle the avoidance stuff, but also trying to figure out, where was I with this? Where did I put this?
Hmm.
Where did I put that note? Because I'm jotting stuff down on little pieces of paper, or I'm emailing stuff to me,
Hmm. Hmm.
and I'm looking through my email, I'm looking through the little pieces of paper. Where's that one idea that I need to get started? And
Yeah.
that's not at all who I am, otherwise, which is interesting.
Yeah. I think so. I know we want to keep this pretty short, but I'm just thinking about something. Like, I tend to keep my stuff fairly corralled for creative writing, like for my own stuff, this novel I'm working on. I have a bin, and in the bin, I have a couple of things, and then I have this notebook that is just chock full of stuff I've written in different locations, but I always bring it to the notebook
Mhm.
and shove it in there. It's got index cards and so on in there. Um, I think that my disorganization on Wednesday, my chaotic approach to that hour was because I'm entering a different phase of the creative process. I could feel it.
Mm.
I am no longer gleaning ideas. I'm actually moving towards sort of shaping everything and
Mm.
like being more directed. And so I had this feeling of being unmoored because nothing I was doing was working because I think I was trying to do stuff from the previous phase and that phase is over. I felt a definite sense, okay, this is not what I should be doing right
Really?
now.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. So, um, I like the use of the term unmoored.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, one of the things. How do you know when you're in a chaotic workflow, right? If it's just normal, if it feels
Right.
like what you're doing every day, how do you know,
Yeah.
right? And so I think one of the things is, you know, do you feel a certain sense of being unmoored from the process of producing the work?
Mm-hmm.
And then the other is just straight up, is the work being produced,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know? And
Those
it's
things happen.
interesting that you see it as a sort of a transition without intentionality,
Yes,
where,
exactly.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, well put. Yeah, for me, that's how I felt that particular work period went because I had been being productive in similar situations with very little time to prep and I don't light a candle or do anything like that. I sit in the same place where I do my regular work.
yeah,
And so that hasn't really been a problem before. I didn't have trouble landing, if you're picture an insect trying to land on a flower, I don't normally have that trouble. I think it was definitely to me a sign that the transition was a surprise that I hadn't realized I was moving on to the next phase. And this is probably my seventh novel. Like I'm not a novice to the act
mhm,
of writing a novel. I'm not saying they're good novels. They're just novels, and some of them were real shit actually and didn't get published. But the I guess this is a good discussion for me because I think I could have bumbled around for a couple of more work sessions without knowing that
yeah,
really it's time to move on.
yeah. So time to take the bee suit off.
Yeah. Bumble. Ba-dum-bum.
So, but I have a question for you, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, but obviously we have identified an area for both of us where we could gain some capacity, right? So as you're now recognizing you're entering this next phase, how can you approach it in a less chaotic workflow kind of way?
I think I might have to shift my that's a good question. I don't plan for my next work session to be chaotic because now
Mhm.
awareness is everything basically, but I think probably two things. One is to double up on the work session, so I do two in a day instead of one.
Mhm.
And one is probably to work the ground I've already identified as being the ground of the novel and stop thinking about bringing in new ideas.
Right.
Work
Right.
the existing ground because it's big, it's already rich territory.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And I can't wait to see this thing when it's done.
Oh, it's gonna be shit.
Um,
Don't get excited.
no, it's not gonna be shit. Yeah, have you written the first sentence?
Yeah, but
Okay,
I'm not
good.
saying it'll stay the first sentence. I don't write like you do.
Uh-huh.
I write a true draft. It's like instructions for a novel with examples, basically.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, as my
Oh,
friend Doug
sure.
would say. Yeah.
All right, interesting. All right,
Mhm.
sounds good. Well,
Yeah.
maybe we should come back to this and see what new ideas of ironing out the chaos
Yeah,
we can.
chaotic workflow to me is very interesting. As I say, I don't have a problem, but I think the volume slash bottleneck one that I have in my paid
Uh-huh.
work, is it can translate also to one's own personal creative projects and when one is a full-time artist, then of course, in whatever field, then of course, volume and bottlenecks might be the ground that you're
Mhm.
treading all the time because
Right.
then you have to get really clever about how you're going to, well, we'll talk about this separately about, John Irving's Too Many Ideas. And
Right.
so, um, you have to prioritize. So, and how you do that.
Okay. Sounds good.
All
I
right.
like it. And lots of good thoughts. I had never really thought of it as I'm seeing a new perspective, which is good.
Oh,
Awesome.
awesome.
Going back to filing.
Okay, I'm gonna go have a snack.
Grab a can of gin. Why don't you?
If I could find a can again.
Thanks for listening to Gifted Underachievers, the podcast for mid-level creatives with delusional ambitions. We'd love to hear how we're doing, so please leave a comment, join our chat page, or send us an email at giftedunderachievers@substack.com. You can find us on Spotify, iTunes, and anywhere else you like to get your podcasts. Thanks for listening, and have a great day.